Welcome to Life Stories. Sometimes, life's greatest moments come from unexpected mistakes. Olivia Carter never imagined that sitting at the wrong table on a blind date would change her life forever. What started as an awkward mix-up turned into a deep connection with a man who wasn't who he claimed to be. When the truth comes to light, can love survive the weight of deception? This is a story of trust, heartbreak, and the power of second chances. Subscribe to our channel to begin today's story and discover more heartwarming tales of love, resilience, and fate. The soft hum of conversation and the gentle clinking of silverware filled the elegant restaurant in downtown Chicago. The lighting was warm and subdued, casting a golden glow over the polished marble floors and neatly arranged tables. It was the kind of place where every dish was a masterpiece and every guest exuded an effortless air of sophistication. But as I stepped inside, adjusting the strap of my second-hand dress, I felt painfully out of place. The reflection in the glass doors had already reminded me of the reality I tried to ignore: my scuffed shoes, my simple dress, and the nervous energy bubbling just beneath my skin. I had promised my best friend, Rachel, that I would go through with this blind date. She had insisted it was time I put myself out there, that I deserved a good guy after years of struggling on my own. So here I was, clutching my phone, scanning the room for table 5. Table 5, table 5, I murmured under my breath, my heart hammering. Then, I saw him. A man sat alone near the back, sharply dressed, his dark hair neatly styled. He was absorbed in his phone, his posture relaxed but assured. There was something effortless about the way he carried himself, as though he belonged here in a way I never could. That has to be him, I thought, taking a deep breath, plastering a bright smile on my face. I approached the table, willing my hands to stop trembling. Hi, you must be Kevin. I'm Olivia. Nice to meet you. The man looked up, startled. His blue eyes widened for the briefest moment before he blinked, as though trying to process what was happening. Hi, he said after a pause, his voice deep and smooth. I misread his hesitation as shyness. Maybe he was just nervous. Like me. I slid into the chair across from him, forcing a cheerful laugh. I know, blind dates are weird, right? Rachel told me you might be a little quiet. So don't worry, I can talk enough for both of us. For a second, he looked like he wanted to say something. But then he hesitated. Something flickered across his face: curiosity, amusement, then, a slow, almost reluctant smile tugged at the corner of his lips. Right, he said, his voice more confident now. Blind dates, there's something else. I let out a breath I hadn't realized I was holding and reached for my glass of water, hoping to steady my nerves. Tell me about it. Rachel has been trying to set me up for months, but I've been too busy. You know, work, he echoed, leaning forward slightly. What do you do? I'm a waitress, I admitted, fiddling with the napkin in my lap. Not exactly glamorous, but it pays the bills, well, most of them. Anyway, what about you? He hesitated for just a fraction of a second before answering. I work in tech. Tech? I perked up, genuinely curious. Like coding and apps and all that? Because I'm terrible with computers. He chuckled, the sound rich and warm. Something like that. There was something easy about talking to him. It was unexpected. I had prepared myself for awkward silences, for polite but forced small talk. But instead, the conversation flowed effortlessly. I found myself telling him about my shifts at the diner, the rude customers, the kind regulars who tipped well. I even told him about my dream of opening an art studio one day, though it felt silly saying it out loud. He didn't laugh. He didn't brush it off. Instead, he listened, genuinely interested, asking thoughtful questions. I hadn't realized how much I needed that, to be heard, to be seen. You're not what I expected, I said suddenly, my voice softer now. He raised an eyebrow. What do you mean? Well, Rachel said you were reserved, but you're actually easy to talk to. His lips twitched in amusement. You're easy to talk to, too. I beamed at the compliment, feeling my nerves ease. Maybe this blind date thing wasn't such a bad idea after all. And then, my phone buzzed. I glanced down, my stomach flipping as I saw the message. Hey Olivia, where are you? I'm at table 5, looking forward to meeting you. Kevin. My heart stopped. Slowly, I looked up, heat rising to my cheeks. My throat felt dry, my pulse a deafening roar in my ears. You're not Kevin, are you? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. His smile faltered, a flash of something, guilt, maybe, flickered in his eyes. No, he admitted. My stomach churned. Oh my God, I muttered, standing up so quickly that my chair nearly toppled over. I'm so sorry. I sat at the wrong table. This is so embarrassing. Wait, he said, standing as well. Olivia, it's okay. But I was already grabbing my coat. My heart pounding as I all but bolted for the door. My face burning with humiliation. How could I be so stupid? How could I sit there for an entire dinner? Talking, laughing, thinking something real was happening? I barely noticed the cold wind biting at my skin as I hurried down the street. I just needed to get home. To forget this ever happened. Back in the restaurant, Ethan Walker sat back down. Exhaling slowly, he had intended to correct her at the start. But something about Olivia had made him pause. He had spent years surrounded by polished socialites. People who spoke to him in careful, calculated words, always aware of his wealth and status. But Olivia had spoken to him like he was just a man. And now she was gone. Ethan glanced toward the door, an unfamiliar weight settling in his chest. He had never believed in fate. But as he sat there, replaying the way her eyes had lit up when she spoke about her dreams, he couldn't shake the feeling that he had just let something important slip away. For the first time in a long while, he felt something new, regret. The next day, I tried to shake off the embarrassment of my disastrous blind date. But my mind kept returning to the way Ethan, no, the stranger, had listened to me. The way he had smiled when I spoke about my dreams. But none of it mattered now. He wasn't Kevin. He was just some guy who had played along with my mistake instead of telling me the truth. I was determined to forget him. But fate had other plans. A few days later, as I finished my shift at the diner, wiping down the last table before heading home, my phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. Hey Olivia, this is Ethan, the guy from the restaurant. I know it was a mix-up. But I really enjoyed talking to you. Would you let me buy you a coffee? I stared at the message, my heart doing something annoyingly fluttery. Rachel, who had been watching me read it, smirked. Who's that? I hesitated. The wrong guy from the blind date. Rachel's eyes widened. Ooh, and why is he texting you? I let out a breath. He wants to meet for coffee. She grinned. And what's stopping you? You said he was nice. He was, I admitted, but I made a total fool of myself. And I barely know him. Rachel rolled her eyes. That's the whole point of a coffee date. Olivia, worst case scenario. It's awkward for 20 minutes. Best case scenario? She wiggled her eyebrows suggestively. I sighed, staring at the message. Against my better judgment, I found myself typing back. Okay, coffee sounds nice. We met at a small cafe tucked away from the city's usual chaos. Ethan was already there when I arrived, sitting at a corner table. This time, he wasn't in a suit, just jeans and a sweater, looking far more relaxed than he had at the restaurant. Hi, I said as I slid into the seat across from him, still unsure why I had agreed to this. Hi, he said, smiling. Thanks for coming. I shrugged, playing it cool. I figured I owed you an apology for running out like that. No apology necessary, he said. Honestly, I'm glad you did. Otherwise, I might not have had a reason to text you. That made me pause. I studied him, trying to figure out what it was about him that made him so easy to talk to. We ordered our drinks, and somehow, the conversation flowed just as effortlessly as it had before. He asked me about my art, my family, my goals, and I found myself opening up to him in a way I hadn't with anyone in a long time. So, what do you do? I asked after a while. Genuinely curious. He hesitated, then gave me the same vague answer from before. I work in tech. Startups. Mostly. I nodded. That sounds complicated. It can be, he admitted, but I like it. And for some reason, I didn't push for more details. Maybe because I didn't want to ruin whatever this was, this strange, unexpected connection between us. As we finished our coffee, Ethan walked me outside. The autumn air was crisp. The streets alive with city sounds. I'd like to see you again, he said, shoving his hands into his pockets. Looking almost nervous. I smiled. I think I'd like that too. What I didn't know then was that Ethan was hiding something. Something that would change everything. The next few weeks with Ethan were something out of a dream. It was strange how quickly he became a constant in my life, texting me in the mornings with little jokes, meeting me after my shifts to walk me home, surprising me with small thoughtful gestures like bringing my favorite pastries from the bakery near my apartment. He was easy to be around. No pretense, no judgment, just laughter, warmth, and conversations that stretched late into the evening. And yet, a small voice in the back of my mind whispered that something wasn't quite right. Ethan never talked much about himself. Whenever I asked about his work, he kept things vague, just tech stuff, or startups, and quickly turned the conversation back to me. He never invited me to his place. Never let me meet any of his friends. Still, I told myself it didn't matter. He made me feel special. He made me feel seen. Until the night everything unraveled. I had been volunteering at a high-profile charity event, an art auction to raise money for underprivileged youth. The kind of event where donors sipped champagne and wore outfits that probably cost more than my entire year's rent. I was helping arrange the silent auction table when a ripple of excitement spread through the crowd. "Who is that?" one of the other volunteers whispered, nodding toward the grand entrance. I turned, my heart stopping cold. There, walking into the ballroom with effortless confidence, was Ethan, but not the Ethan I knew. He was dressed in a sharp black suit, surrounded by people who looked at him with admiration, deference. The event organizer shook his hand warmly before addressing the crowd. "Ladies and gentlemen, we are honored to welcome our esteemed guest of honor, Ethan Walker, whose generosity has made this event possible." Applause erupted. I barely heard it. The air seemed to thicken around me as realization crashed over me like a tidal wave. Ethan Walker. The Ethan Walker. Not just a man who worked in tech, one of the most influential tech entrepreneurs in the country. A billionaire, a philanthropist, someone who lived in a world I could never dream of belonging to. And he had lied to me. For weeks, he had let me believe he was just an ordinary guy. Let me pour my heart out to him. Share my struggles, my dreams, without ever telling me the truth. Humiliation burned through me. Had he been playing some kind of game? Had I been nothing more than a distraction to someone who had everything? I waited until the event slowed down before I approached him. He was standing near a group of guests, his usual calm demeanor intact, until he saw me. His expression shifted, his blue eyes widening slightly. "Olivia," he said, stepping toward me. I held up a hand. "We need to talk." His jaw tightened, and after a brief hesitation, he nodded. "Let's go somewhere private." We stepped into a quiet hallway just outside the ballroom. I turned to him, arms crossed, my voice colder than I had ever meant for it to be. "So you're Ethan Walker, the billionaire, the philanthropist." I let out a bitter laugh. "Care to explain why you pretended to be someone else?" Ethan exhaled slowly, rubbing a hand over his face. "I didn't mean to lie to you, Olivia. When we first met, it was an accident. You thought I was someone else. And for the first time in years, someone was talking to me like I was just me. Not my money, not my status, just a guy at a restaurant." I shook my head, and instead of telling me the truth, "You let me believe it." "I was afraid," he admitted, his voice quiet. "Afraid that if you knew who I was, you'd see me differently, that you'd treat me like everyone else does." I let out a shaky breath, my hands trembling. "Do you have any idea how humiliating this is? I trusted you. I thought you were different. I am different, he said, stepping closer, desperation flickering in his eyes. Everything we shared, our conversations, the way I feel about you, that was real. I never lied about that. But the damage had already been done. I shook my head, blinking back the sting of tears. You made me feel like I wasn't enough. Like you didn't think I could handle the truth. That wasn't it, Olivia, Ethan said, his voice raw. I was scared you'd walk away before I even had a chance to show you who I really am. I swallowed hard. Well, congratulations, Ethan. You got what you were afraid of. And before he could say another word, I turned and walked away. I didn't look back. The weeks that followed were some of the hardest I had ever endured. No matter how much I tried to push Ethan from my mind. His words haunted me, the regret in his eyes. The way he had fought to explain himself, it all lingered. But trust, once broken, was not easy to rebuild. And yet, he didn't give up. One evening, Rachel dragged me to an art gallery opening. I assumed it was just another exhibit until I saw my name on the banner. The Art of Olivia Carter. My breath hitched as I stepped inside. The walls were lined with my sketches, ones I had never dared to show anyone. My hands trembled as I turned. And there he was. Ethan stood near the entrance. His expression unreadable. Your art deserves the world, Olivia, he said, his voice steady. And so do you. I stared at him, overwhelmed, my heart warring with my head. I didn't do this to win you back. He continued, I did it because I believe in you. Because you deserve to have your dreams recognized. Tears welled in my eyes. For all his wealth, his influence, this was the grandest thing he had ever done, not because of the money. But because it was proof that he had truly seen me. I took a shaky breath. No more secrets? His lips curved into the smallest, most hopeful smile. No more secrets. And as I took his outstretched hand, I knew that this time, we were starting something real. Subscribe to our channel for more heartwarming stories about love, trust, and second chances. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next story.